Hey, you tried the 5 a.m. thing. Maybe you lasted 3 days, maybe 3 weeks, but somewhere along the way, you crashed. You woke up one morning, saw that dark window, and your brain said, absolutely not, and you felt like a failure. Like every successful person on the internet was out there journaling with their pour-over coffee while you slept through your alarm like a teenager. Here's what nobody tells you. Waking up early isn't the problem. The lie is that early works for everyone. There's a hidden switch inside your skull that decides before you even open your eyes whether you'll feel like a superhero or a zombie. Most people try to force that switch, and every single thing you want to fix, your focus, your mood, your energy, even your weight, will stay broken until you stop fighting your own biology. At the very end of this video, I'm going to give you what I call the Chrono-Key. It's a single number that tells you exactly when your brain is wired to wake up. And once you know it, the whole discipline versus laziness debate disappears. But first, you need to understand why the 5 a.m. lie is so dangerously convincing. Let's start with what actually happens when that alarm goes off at 5 a.m. Your body runs on an internal clock called the circadian rhythm. It's not a metaphor. It's a real biological pacemaker located in a tiny cluster of cells in your hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. This clock doesn't care about your goals. It doesn't care about the self-help book you bought. It cares about one thing: light, specifically the rising sun. For hundreds of thousands of years, your ancestors woke up when the sky got bright and went to sleep when it got dark. That's it. Now you're trying to trick that ancient system by jolting awake in pitch darkness. And your brain's first response is confusion. It releases cortisol, the stress hormone, to wake you up artificially. But here's the dirty secret. That cortisol spike isn't clean energy. It's emergency energy. The same chemical your body uses when you're being chased by a predator. So you stumble to the bathroom and your brain thinks you're running from a lion. That's why you feel shaky, irritable, and weirdly hungry for sugar within an hour. You're not weak. You're chemically flooded with fight or flight juice. Now think about what you do next. You make coffee. Great. Caffeine blocks adenosine, the chemical that builds up sleep pressure. But here's the part nobody explains. Adenosine doesn't stop building just because you blocked its receptors. It keeps accumulating like a debt with compound interest. So by 2 p.m., all that caffeine wears off, and the adenosine avalanche hits you at once. That's the famous afternoon crash. You stare at your screen. You open the fridge for the 4th time, even though you're not hungry. You pick up your phone, put it down, pick it up again. That's not laziness. That's your brain desperately trying to find any source of dopamine to override the exhaustion. And here's where it gets cruel. The same people who swear by 5 a.m. will tell you to push through. But pushing through chronic sleep deprivation does something insidious to your hippocampus, the part of your brain that forms memories. Studies show that after just 1 week of waking up 2 hours before your natural rhythm, your memory performance drops by the same amount as 2 full nights of no sleep. So you're not getting more done, you're just getting more forgetful. Let's talk about the hidden variable that changes everything: your chronotype. This is your genetic sleep-wake preference. About 40% of people are morning types. They naturally wake early, peak in energy before noon, and fade by evening. Another 30% are evening types. They can't fall asleep before midnight, no matter how hard they try, and their brain doesn't fully turn on until late morning. The remaining 30% are in between. Here's the kicker. Evening types who force themselves into a 5 a.m. routine don't just feel tired. They actually have higher rates of depression, anxiety, and even metabolic syndrome. Why? Because you're constantly fighting your own biology. Your body releases melatonin, the sleep hormone, at a different time than a morning person's does. When you drag yourself out of bed at 5 a.m., your melatonin levels might still be near their peak. That means you're trying to perform complex tasks while your brain is chemically screaming, "Go back to sleep," and you blame yourself. You think you lack discipline. That's like blaming a fish for not climbing a tree. Now think about the daily moments you've convinced yourself are normal. You sit down to work at 7 a.m., but you spend the first hour just staring. Maybe you check email 4 times. Maybe you reorganize your desktop. You call it warming up. But what's really happening is that your prefrontal cortex, the CEO of your brain, hasn't fully come online yet. For an evening type, executive function can lag by up to 4 hours after waking. That means from 5 to 9 a.m., you're essentially running on a biological demo mode. You can do routine stuff, but complex problem solving, creative thinking, making good decisions, your brain literally doesn't have the hardware ready, so you end up spending the first 3 hours of your day doing low-value tasks, then finally hitting your stride around 10 a.m., exactly when the early birds are starting to fade. Then you work through lunch because you feel behind. By evening, you're wired but exhausted. You scroll your phone until midnight because your body still thinks it's a night owl. Then you do it all again. That's not a productivity system. That's a sleep debt spiral. Here's the research that will change your mind. A massive study from the University of Westminster tracked over 1,000 people with different wake-up times. The ones who woke up naturally, without an alarm, reported 20% higher productivity and significantly lower stress than the forced early group. But here's the wild part. The natural wakers weren't all waking at 5 a.m. Some woke at 6, some at 7, some at 8, or even 9. Their productivity didn't correlate with the time on the clock. It correlated with how aligned their wake time was with their chronotype. In other words, a night owl waking at 9 a.m. and starting work at 10 a.m. outperformed a morning person waking at 5 a.m. and starting at 6 a.m. because the night owl's brain was actually ready. The morning person was just earlier, not better. Earlier. And yet the entire self-improvement industry has convinced you that 5 a.m. is a moral achievement. It's not. It's a genetic lottery ticket that 40% of people win without trying. The other 60%? They've been playing a rigged game. Now, the answer you've been waiting for. The Chrono-Key. That single number is your personal mid-sleep point. Here's how to find it. On a day when you don't have to set an alarm, like a vacation or a weekend with no obligations, go to bed when you're tired and wake up naturally without an alarm. Write down the time you wake up. Then do the same thing the next night. Average those 2 wake times. That's your natural wake hour. Now here's the rule. Your ideal wake time for maximum energy and focus is never more than 90 minutes earlier than that natural number. If you naturally wake at 8 a.m., the earliest you should ever force yourself up is 6:30 a.m. Anything earlier and you're not optimizing, you're just torturing yourself. The real secret isn't waking at 5 a.m., it's waking at your 5 a.m. For you, that might be 7, or 8, or even 9. And when you stop fighting your own biology, something beautiful happens. You stop feeling guilty about rest. You stop measuring your worth by the darkness of the sky when you open your eyes. You start working with your brain instead of against it. And that's not laziness. That's the most productive thing you will ever do. The early bird doesn't always get the worm. Sometimes the worm sleeps in and then eats the bird for lunch.